This year, a new chapter begins. Peter Otto redefines the classic. A new name, a new season, for a new story. Season starts now. This year, a new chapter begins. Peter Otto redefines the classic. A new name, a new season, for a new story. The new season starts now.
Well, it's a very, very warm welcome in every sense of the words to Spa-Francorchamps for the second event of the Le Mans Classic Series by Peter Otto. It is the Spa Classic, and I'm delighted to say that we have a full weekend and a full set of grids for you. Alongside me, John Hindolf, in the Global Broadcast Centre is Bruce Jones. We will be heading off decanting to our spiffy new set after this race and bringing you some interviews as well. Bruce, looking forward to that. But I have to say, a cornucopia of delights in all of the paddocks here at Spa-Francorchamps.
Yeah, the series multiple just grow and grow. And mysteriously, if you have a meeting on the full Grand Prix circuit at Spa-Francorchamps, it's going to attract everyone to it. And the number of people who've increased in all of the fields from the opening round of the championship in Barcelona just a short while ago, it's incredible. Plus, we have the GT3 Revival Series, 44 cars entered in that. So it's going to be really hot work. And a lot of drivers in this, they can't decide which of their children they like the most. So they race in various categories. And they do have to move around this giant paddock to get from car A to car B, from the top pits, the Grand Prix pits, down to the bottom pit, some under awnings, and the temperature is sky high. I am one of only 4 people, along with you, John, wearing trousers today at Spa-Francorchamps. For Vincent François in the pit lane, he's got a hot environment to be in, so we're throwing down to him soon for his welcome. But just sit back and enjoy, and the racing will go on all the way through until, well, quite late after 11 o'clock tonight. About 11:20 we ought to finish, and then we start again fresh, we hope, at 9 o'clock tomorrow morning, go all the way through until just coming up to 6 o'clock on Sunday. It's a holiday weekend in every sense of the word.
And if you want to join the conversation, you can at RSL_studio on X if you want to get through to our studio. The temperature set to be in the mid to high 20s Celsius today, getting even warmer across the weekend. An absolute scorcher when we're heading home on Monday. It is Whit Monday, of course, which is the holiday weekend that Bruce is talking about. We'll kick off our first event for the Endurance Racing Classics, and it is our first race of the weekend. You've missed no racing joining us here this early afternoon on Saturday. 33 cars in a grid that is dedicated to GTs and prototypes from, well, around about the middle of the 1970s up to the 1980s. One of the real golden ages for GT cars, and Porsche 935s, BMW M1s, there's a BB 512. Ferrari as well.
Stop it now, John.
And,
you have to
remember,
pace yourself.
this is just our first grid. We've got the historic touring cars out on the circuit at the moment, which is just coming to the end of their qualifying session. That's Ford Capris and CSLs, etc. So if you can hear cars in the background, that is what you're listening to at the moment. And Be Still My Beating Heart with all those Cologne Capris and CSLs, and we all had those as Scalextric cars and models down through the years. Big crowd already coming in this weekend, this holiday weekend, and it was very busy down there. However, the pit lane is a little quieter. The Formula One pit lane is where we find our third voice, Vincent. Good afternoon and bonjour, and it is a very bonjour. The sun is shining, a beautiful spring day here in Belgium.
Hello Bruce, hello John, so happy to be with you here in Spa-Francorchamps, the Spa-Francorchamps circuit. In my region this time, as you said, the pit lane is quite empty now, but it won't last very long before the cars of the Endurance Racing Legends 2 comes on the pits, in the pits, and then on the grid, and that will be the start of the race number 1. Will be during the whole weekend here in the pit lane. We'll make some interviews, many interviews about what happened in the race, of course, but also about the story of some cars, because as you know, with Peter Otto we have prestigious racing cars here on this wonderful circuit on Spa-Francorchamps. And look at this, it's sunny. It will be sunny today and tomorrow and for the next week, so it's quite unusual here in the Belgian Ardennes, but we are ready for it.
Thank you very much, Vincent. Do go into the garage and have a beer and an ice cream. Yeah,
and some frites as well. Obviously, we might as well tick off all of the Belgian cuisine that this area is so well known for. I'm seeing that this is typical Spa weather this year. I was here 2 weeks ago for the World Endurance Championship, and this is the identical conditions that we had for the Spa 6 Hours Friday and Saturday. A little bit colder when we went down to the Eiffel from the Ardennes last weekend for the Nürburgring 24. And when I say a little bit colder, I mean really, really cold.
Just above freezing, John.
Yes, indeed. And I was rather worried that some of that colder weather might have caught on and come back here this weekend, but I need not have done. A real festival atmosphere here with plenty of outlets with merchandise. There's a model shop that Bruce has just been steering me away from in the paddock, because even with limited amount of luggage capability, he knows that I will be drawn into spending money. What I love about these events, Bruce, and you know, you and I have done a lot of these together. You were at Barcelona, the opener, earlier on this year, but what I love about this, there is a real festival atmosphere. It's a bit like the circus coming to town, and I mean that in the best way, because we see a lot of the same faces. There are a lot of very large business opportunities now, and people who are coming with big trailers and multiple cars, not just 2 or 3 or 4, but into double figures, as we're just getting the checkered flag now on the end of the historic touring car 1. And it's BMW from 2 Ford Capris and 2 BMWs and another Capri for your top 6 as they come across the line now, with the lovely little GTA Alphas in that class as well. But this is a part of motorsport and a part of the motorsport area that has blossomed in the last, what, decade or so?
Yeah, it has. I mean, Peter Auto Classic has been rebranded this year as Le Mans Classic, and it's bringing in many, many more elements, and this is always such a popular circuit. So we don't just have the cars, we have incredible assemblies of car clubs, massive ranks of TVRs. There's an entire Shelby arena with the original Shelby Transporter, the Shelby Pickup, the Shelby Station Wagon, and a host of Shelby 289s. There are Ford GT40 areas, there are BMW. We were lusting after some incredible...
The Belgian BMW Club have done an absolutely quality job right at the exit of the Formula One pit lane.
Yeah, no, it's sensational, and it really is a good, I'd say it's a couple of days out, because it'd be very rude to come here and not go and watch trackside. I'm not just talking about Eau Rouge Radion, which we know is epic, but a lot of people need to go to the far end of the circuit and get the sweep down Bruxelles and watch high on the hill up at Les Combes. to me, this is just, I love this circuit, rain or shine. I tell you what, I will take the sunshine today, though. It's fantastic. But the array of cars is just exquisite, and there are people from all around the world competing here. And in fact, one of the first studio guests I'll have is a person who's come up from New Zealand to do 2 months of racing.
Why wouldn't you?
And then he'll go back to his business life. But it's time out, and time out very, very well spent. But yes, hugely international. Looking down behind the endurance pits, as we call them, come down the slope, you can see some of the car clubs. In behind, there's an area of about 30 different retail outlets. There are bars and friteries. Also, the construction work of the new tower. You can see some mighty tall cranes in the background. Not working this weekend, obviously. But, you know, Spa is being remodelled. It has continued to be remodelled ever since it started, frankly.
Yeah, it's... Well, the Guardia Familia has now finally been finished after 400 and odd years in Barcelona. Maybe Spa is still the biggest engineering and construction and design work in the world that is still ongoing and still improving. 33 cars, as I mentioned, Bruce. Of course, we've got the Astons and the Ferraris and in ERL2. But we have got a Mosler in there, just a single Mosler. It's one we've seen before, the black MT900, but it just adds to the variety that we're getting out there on the circuit. And the majority of these guys are working from the F1 pits as well. Yeah, they are. I mean, if you take a very quick scan, you'll notice there are a couple of Aston Martins in the field. It's almost all otherwise. Ferrari F430s against Porsche 993 GT2s. There's also, what else have we got down there that's different? There's one Chevrolet Corvette run by John Emberson. He has a very good crack in that. But this is a time when, well, eternally in sports car racing, it has a time when it's retrenching, rebalancing and coming forward. And this brought an awful lot of privateers back into top-line sports car racing, which is something that needs to be refreshed about once every 10 years. The sort of sister car to the Mosler, because it is the twin Bush entry, is the Toyota Supra GT2, the 2004 car, which is the mainly white car with red and blue on it. Those guys are running together, the two Bushes, and nice to see them, as I say, bringing something different. A variety of Porsches. In this era, we're in the 996 era, for those of you Porsche files. That's the one with the sort of fried egg headlights that divided opinion massively. And of course, the 996 as a street car was the first non-air and oil-cooled 996. So this is the beginning of the water-cooled era. A huge step for Porsche with the car that's been around since 1962. And of course, there were people within the Porsche fraternity who said, well, that's it. That's the last. The 993 is the last proper Porsche. And they're still saying that now. At every different iteration, we've just gone on to the number 9, the type number 992.2, and it's got a hybrid, it's got a partial hybrid on it. And oh, that's the end of the traditional Porsche as well. But it is extraordinary that car, that shape, that basic shape, has endured for well over 60 years. And if you showed a line drawing of a Porsche from any of those 60-odd years to even people who were barely mildly interested in cars, Bruce, they would recognise that as a Porsche straight away.
Oh, just 100%. And it is such... There isn't a stronger bloodline in the world automotive industry. I still have a penchant for the very early ones, but I know you love pretty much everything in between. I just like the purity, etc., etc. But of course, the performance went through the roof as it advanced through the decades. And for a lot of people, they still talk about the 1973 Carrera RS as the very zenith of it all. And then it was really after that they became larger. But you know, strip away what you had on the road, which is quite hard. And you have what's happened on the track. I mean, Porsche, they're still sitting on 19 wins at Le Mans, but they started small, started winning their class in the early 60s, and then people began to sit up and take notice. But then, let's face it, this race is largely Ferrari against Porsche, and Ferrari ever strong in the GT field, and so popular for a lot of people. I love the fact we've got cars brought in from all around the world. Love seeing that Taisan livery we saw a short while ago over from Japan, and the Japanese have always been very into their Porsches as well. But it's not just Porsches, it's Ferraris, as you mentioned, a Mosler, a few Aston Martins, a Toyota Supra, and John Emberson's Chevrolet Corvette. But for the 996s, they're pretty effective. But at the moment, 4 of the top 5 cars are Ferrari F430s. Yeah, slightly younger, 2010.
This seemed to have been really popular. They were popular at the time. And again, this was a big step forward, the 430 GTC and the Evos particularly that came in 2008-ish, I think, if I remember rightly. And you and I commentated on pretty much, in fact, all of these cars in periods. Aston Martins, you mentioned, we have 2 different Vantages actually, because we've got the V8 Vantage, the number 92 car is out there as a V8, but in the Invitational class we have got a V12, haven't we? Yes, we have. The number 16 that we'll see, so 2 versions of the British Challenger as it was in the mid to late 2000s. And of course, we're looking at some of these cars, the GTCs and the GT3s, an addition to the Le Mans Classic Series, and indeed to Classic Le Mans this year, is a GT3 category, a fully homologated GT3 category. And we'll see those at Classic Le Mans this year. That takes cars that potentially could be up to 2013 actually with the Evos, and actually possibly a little bit beyond that as well. And this is the first time in Classic Le Mans history that newer cars have been let in. And again, a bit like the Porsche question, there will be people saying, oh, the sky is falling in. It's 25 years, Bruce, since we first had Classic Le Mans, and adding a few years in to the end of it, all you're doing is saying to people for whom some of these cars, and even a little bit later, were their introduction to endurance racing, is saying, here are your hero cars, come to Le Mans and watch them again.
Yeah, no, it really works. And I mean, we all have our favoured periods of motor racing. I'm very hard to pin mine down. I'm a bit like a gadfly leaping from side to side because I just walk through a paddock. My head is so easily turned. But for a lot of people, these were the cars they wanted at the time. They couldn't afford it at the time. They were too poor, too married, too anything along those lines. And now they have them. But it's just fantastic. Cars should not be kept in museums unless they're regularly brought out on the circuit.
Totally agree.
And a lot of people have spent years building up their collection. There's that black and yellow Mosler, something a little bit different. And now, it's not just people getting the cars on the track. The historic motor racing industry is phenomenal. And I advise anybody who wants to get into motor racing, if they want to do an engineering side, go and work with one of the historic teams. You'll get variety, you get some really cool circuits to come to, and you can be very busy indeed.
Already you are telling us that you are settling in for the afternoon. A warm and sunny Buckinghamshire is where Thomas Pitts is watching from. He said, I was at the WEC weeks ago, and some of our group were asking, would we do it the Belgian trip again? And the answer from me was yes, but maybe for the Spa Classic instead. So Thomas watching as a bit of an appetizer, potentially planning for next year. Well, I'd heartily recommend it.
Oh, I would. And the number of gangs of friends coming around here. You can go to the top of the Grand Prix pit building. There's an amazing rooftop restaurant. You can be undercover in the shade looking down, or in the bright sunshine. Oh, I wept when I saw people walking past with cool glasses of beer while I had to head back to work. But just such brilliant vantage points here. And when we were here 12 months ago, we had driving rain into the night, and we are going into the night again to give people not just a daytime racing experience. Of course, lots of the cars in various categories across all of these Le Mans Classic weekends would have raced at Le Mans, would have raced in the night. Some, of course, would have raced in the Spa 24 Hours. We'll get to those again later. So they'll get that slice of the action through to about 11 ce soir.
There is a 993 GT2 Evo as well. That's Tim Pappas and Jerome Blakemore in the Black Swan away kit, if you will, which is the white car with the green stripes. That's the 540. So that's a bit of an earlier car. That goes back to before the turn of the century, actually. It's 1999. And did the Marcos get out as well? Because I did see...
That's in a different field. That's not in this field.
Oh, okay.
I think that's in ERL1, if I'm correct. Yes, I am. It's actually the LMPs and GT1s. So there's Vincent, he's waiting down on the grid, but the cars haven't reached him yet. But we will be getting some interviews from the grid, so we'll give Vincent a chance just to warm up a little bit. But the cars going around the track, there'll be no problem whatsoever getting heat in the tyres. The wise spectators are taking vantage points that are in the shade. Certainly worthwhile. But look at these conditions. This is May, remind yourself. It feels like high summer here in the Ardennes. Everyone just having a fantastic time. And this is the first of the racing meetings of Spa Classic for 2026. I'm super excited.
One of the first things you learn at school in the UK in your French is il était un beau jour en printemps, and it is absolutely le soleil a brillé. Vincent is down on the grid awaiting the arrival of the cars, and I think he's got a victim as well. Let's head back to the sunshine.
Yes, guys, on the grid with this guy, Mr. Nick Padmore. He's one of the real quick guys on the track and during this weekend. Nick, it's the start of the weekend races, of course, and it's a good start. We are on the front row. Everything okay with the Aston Martin?
Yeah, it's great. It's such a great car to drive, and the noise, you just want to keep changing. It's brilliant around here. I'm in 5 cars this weekend, so it's quite busy. But thanks to Ashley, who invited me to drive this weekend. It's great.
Is it easy to switch from one car to another?
It depends how they are. It depends how they are lined up. So I'm in a T70 coupe in about 2 hours after this. So obviously manual box, and it moves around, and it's not. But you just have to get on with it. You can't hang around and I must take the time to get used to it. So it's a great variety of cars, and I'm very grateful for me to drive them.
Thank you very much. This guy is a former Formula One historic champion, and he will be one to watch during the whole weekend. Thanks, Nick.
Cheers.
Well, he certainly will. I mean, Nick has that advantage of understanding historic cars very well, but it is that ability to jump from one sort of car to another and deal with different teammates. A lot of them, of course, they're instructing at the same time, advising, shaping.
Variety of cars that he's got to drive, and the span of years, because he made a very valid point there. He's getting into a 3-pedal car with a big V8 normally aspirated engine, having driven something that's a 2-pedal car with paddle shift and some driver assistance. Now, right, it's nice and warm and dry today, but every car can bite you. The electronic aids can't overcome the laws of physics as much as we would like them to. But I find it amazing that some of the top cars are
Yeah, the thing that makes it hardest for them, John, is just according to when one category is relative to another. Sometimes they have to literally get out of one and go from the collection area to the assembly area for the next race. And actually here at Spa-Francorchamps, there's a very large distance between the lower pits, the endurance pits on the top of the circuit, and depends when the cars get put on the track. The GT3s are on the other side of the track in the exit of the end of the rallycross stadium there, so they can feed straight onto the track at Eau Rouge. So logistics are really something, and it is a case of hurry, quick. But here are the cars that would have raced at Le Mans, would have raced in the Le Mans series and other elements as they went through the early parts of the 21st century. And again, look at the names on the door. Pierre Eret, Roman Russoff, Leo Mansell. Remember, Nigel's boys came along and spent about 2 years trying to race. Nigel joined them at Le Mans. That didn't go so well, did it? He ended up concussing himself. But again, you just suddenly go back 20 odd years and you forget the names nearly. Most of these cars are there's some very early 993 GT2 Evos. Remy Terrai, his is 1999. A few GT3 RSs from 2001, but I think the latest car in this field is about 2010. Yeah, some of those. In fact, the car's fittingly right at the sharp end of the grid. The F430 GTC Evo Ferraris. There are 3 of those. 4 of those in the top 5 positions. Philip Kadori on pole. James Thorpe holding the flag for Aston Martin will be starting second. Then David Hart, Kyle Tilley, Charles Cardina. And then the Mosler went really well. The black and yellow Mosler in the hands of Dennis Bush, one of the 2 twins, he and brother Mark, but he's got the bragging rights in this one. He gets the big, loud Mosler. You know what? The sound of a racing engine is so vital to me. And when I heard all these Porsches and Ferraris going out, I was going, yeah, great, great, great. Then there was a different sound, and I couldn't work out what it was. And then it dawned on me, I'd forgotten the Moser was in this field. Again, so hopefully we'll pick up the sound through the mics on the cameras, and you'll get the amazing array of engine notes. And, of course, in every single one of the races this weekend, we have a huge display of performance and noise and speed, and it's all part of the rich mix. But right now we're getting set. This is the first of the races here at Spa-Francorchamps for the Spa Classic for 2026. Been fantastic days of testing and practice and qualifying for all the categories, but here's the first of the races, and I would say we're absolutely all set. And this is a 40-minute race. Endurance Racing Legends 2, which is for GT2 class cars, and Endurance Racing Legends 1 is for LMPs and GT1s, the more powerful GTs. We'll get to that at another point on the programme.
Who were the fast people at Barcelona?
Yeah, the very much, well, I just remember a cameo role from John Emberson in his Chevrolet Corvette. Qualifying in Barcelona was rather jiggled. I'm fairly sure the weather interrupted it. But here, looking at the names you expect at the top, like Philip Kaduri, the property magnate from Hong Kong, he's always been fast, but he's absolutely refined his craft in recent years. He's starting in the Team Modena 430 Ferrari from pole position. Car number 48, look out for that one. And he's always one to watch, and he nearly came away with 2 top results from Barcelona. But it does feel as though this race meeting is on another planet, because this is a very, very different circuit. So feast your eyes as the Endurance Racing Legends 2 field goes for another sighter lap with the Dunlop liveried Aston Martin trying to sort of split the pack, and the ex-Chrome Racing Ferrari in that lime green and blue.
Well, there was just a few weeks ago, last weekend in fact, Nick Johnson and Tracy Krohn still together, still racing in 24-hour races.
29 years in, I think, was the figure.
Incredible number. They are knocking on the door of their... I think they've done nearly 40 24... In fact, over 40 24-hour races. They're knocking on the door of 50 now together as a team. Has to be... I mean... Yeah, it has to be one of the most enduring. We talk about the great endurance teams for, you know, people like Dindo Capello and Alan McNeish and Tom Christensen racing together over a period of 5 or 6 years. And here's these guys who've been racing literally some people's lifetime together.
Quite extraordinary. So there it is. It's bright green and with a blue stripe up the middle. Charlie Scardina at the wheel of that, and then Dennis Bush tucked in behind that mean-looking black and yellow Momo liveried Mosler. And then any colour scheme you want. The white and red Toyota you mentioned, that's just gone out of shot. But in behind, Felbermeyer car. There's a livery that effectively is still out on track today in contemporary racing. Blue with the flashes.
IMSA Matmut car, the insurance company from around the Le Mans area. The south and Le Mans is centre of the French insurance industry. And oh my goodness, this is all of our yesterdays. You talked about the championships here in Europe. Some of these cars came from IMSA as well in the absolute glory days of Dr. Don Pano's and the American Le Mans series towards the end of the 1990s and into the early 2000s. We did not have, as we do now, an FIA World Championship for endurance racing. We didn't need it because we had so many good series, and the American Le Mans series brought them all together for some classic tracks that hadn't been seen at that level for a very, very long time. And then, of course, we were knocking on the door of GT3, and that sort of came along as an homologated global formula, thanks to Stefan Rattel, and we'll see some of those cars later on. And that really, at that point, the American Le Mans series kick-started the interest in endurance racing globally. And then in the national and regional series, GT3 and subsequently GT4 really took that on a step further and provided, Bruce, what sports car racing probably had never had, which was a recognised progression for drivers, teams and manufacturers to show their wares and be able to come up through GT4, GT3, GT2 and GT1, of course, and some of those did not last, and we understand about that. But that really, these were big turning point days, end of the 90s into the early 2000s.
Yeah, they really were. These cars were the springboard for what followed. And just for example, GT3 is now a historic formula. Seems extraordinary. Cars from 2006 to 2013. There are 11 different manufacturers represented in the GT3 Revival Series, and that alone is proof that the pudding was one that was deserved to be kept on. And having a global formula does mean things like the Asian Le Mans Series can go from strength to strength and so on. And it brings up people. And what's their ultimate target? Almost to a driver, Le Mans. And some of those will now actually be appearing at Le Mans on the support programme. But here and now, it's the Endurance Racing Legends 2 to kick off the Le Mans Classic Series. Spa Classic, beautiful, beautiful weather conditions, fantastic field, 33 cars. If you'd said in about 2006 or so, oh, we'd probably gather more than 30 of these cars in 20 plus years' time and we'll go racing at Spa-Francorchamps on a sunny day, you'd have gone, yada, yada, absolutely not.
There'd have been some men with a padded van and popping around to see you. All right, get the 40 minutes on your watch. In the sunshine, beautiful, mid to late 20s Celsius. It's Spa, it's spring, and it's endurance racing. Rolling start, red lights are on, and as they go out, the 2026 edition of the Spa Classic, Le Mans Classic Series by Peter Auto is underway, and everybody behaving themselves as they go down to the, it's not as slow a corner as you think. That's probably a third gear corner in these cars, but already the Ferraris have come through. The outside of the front row was the Aston Martin. It dropped back just for a moment, and the two Ferraris head up the hill to Gladio.
Yeah, but Philippe Cadori hasn't made pole pay because Carl Tilley started fourth, went to third past the Aston Martin and around the outside at Lasso. So it's the British-born American licensed American Carl Tilley in the lead of the race, but Philippe Cadori tucked into his wake. Up to Les Combes they go, neat and tidy. The Aston Martin still in the mix there for James Thorpe, and a couple of other cars making progress. That great Spider-Man livery Aston Martin getting a little bit of a wobble on, breaking into Les Combes, but track conditions perfect already. Drivers without a cool suit, we go, oh, why don't I have a cool suit? It's a hot day here at Spa-Francorchamps.
Yeah, that the number 16 car, that's the Fatemi car. That is the V12 in the invitation class, diving downhill. Now, do we use the classic names this weekend?
Use what you want, John, I'll go with it.
Well, down towards P1, which is always P1 to me, the double left, and you approach there, gathering pace much quicker than you really think you should do, even in a street car. If you're fortunate enough, and there's a few people here this weekend who are doing what's called the club laps. We saw some of them yesterday as well.
Well, who wouldn't want to get a lap or two on this fabled circuit? In fact, the Aston Martin that's near the front is James Thorpe's V8 Vantage, V12 Vantage for Tame. He's down in 11th. Oh, dear me.
Yeah, that is quite serious.
It's a Red Bull liveried Ferrari. Just trying to work out. Again, I was about to say, when you were commenting about how wonderful Pouhon is, it's very much a corner of two parts. And the second part, if you run a little bit wide over the curbing on the outside, you'll whip around, and unfortunately barriers may be met.
Yeah, the Fatemi car is the 16 car, though. That's the car I was talking about, the one with the
further down, but the one that's challenging the Ferraris started at the front.
That was the one on the outside the front row.
James Thorpe with the Dunlop livery, very, very close at the front, but it's Carl Tilley who leads the first yellow flag, no surprise there, down on the exit of Pouhon, but the gap between first and second, just half a second, and about a second or so, second and a half further back, 2 seconds back actually, is James Thorpe. Dennis Bush has moved the Mosler from 6th on the grid up to 4th. David Hart was a bit slow away from 3rd on the grid, but he's running in 5th place, just ahead of Charlie Scardina, and then Mark Bush in the Toyota Supra is in 7th, and a good run from Andrew Jamieson up to 8th overall. But right now, just looking at those first two Ferraris, Carl Tilley ahead of Philippe Cadori, and they are opening out a margin with every single moment. I think, by the way, sadly, I think it was Joe Macari who ended up having a little rotation. Yes, car 178 Ferrari. That was with the Red Bull livery.
Two Ferraris at the front of the field, pulling away up the Camel Straight, and it is slightly uphill all the way.
It's not slightly uphill. You walk it, you'll feel it in your calves. So when people say, here they go down the Camel Straight,
no,
you just want to sort of beat them on the head. That's just me, though.
You know how walking it on your calves or driving up it, even in a fairly rapid road car, it's not easy to pull full revs there, and actually very few people get into top gear. Similarly, actually, heading up to Blanchimont Blanchimont is slightly uphill as well, just dragging the car back a wee bit.
Well, it has to be, because you think about the lowest point on the circuit is right down at curve Paul Frere. Yeah, you could sense, you could already see from the high shots the cars were slowing down. Mauro Ricci brought the number 30 yellow Ferrari into the pits, unfortunately, so maybe he picked up a bit of damage when Joe Macari went around down at Pouhon. So the safety car is going to pull to the side of the circuit. The medical car is going around, but the point at which the Macari, oh no, it's the corner further up. And that is the exit of Pouhon.
Yeah, that was, yeah, absolutely.
So maybe he's got going again. But he's listed as stopped on circuit. The blue Red Bull sponsored Ferrari, SC and the yellow flags. Marshals getting the shade as much as they can. It's a long day. Message very clear. If you could hold that yellow flag down a little bit, they could read the SC. But here is the safety car, the Cupra, leading the field round. So the order is Carl Tilley in his Ferrari from Philip Cadori in his pole starting Ferrari, James Thorpe in the better of the Aston Martins, and the black and yellow Momo liveried Mosler, Dennis Bush in 4th place all. David Hart, the 3rd of the Ferraris, in 5th place, and Charlie Scardina in the 4th of the Ferraris in 6th.
If you are enjoying the coverage, please let us know where you are tuning in for. We haven't talked about the classes here. The vast majority of the cars are GT2 C's or B's. There are a couple of A's in there as well, and that invitational Spider-Man car. And it works, yes. Exactly as the point I was going to make. We've got one of the 993 GT2 Evos leading. That's number 59 Brumos number and coloured car in 13th. Is leading GT2A. GT2B.
7th overall is the Toyota.
Spot. Oh, that is the Toyota.
Mark
yes.
Bush.
Yeah, in the.
Just on the right hand side of your screen, you can see the lime green and blue striped Ferrari, and tucked in behind is the GT2B class leader, the white and red flash Toyota Supra, and he's got the Spider-Man Ferrari, Andrew Jameson, car number 18, tucked in into his wake. But just waiting for... Oh, Joe Macari's car has limped back to the pits, by the way. That's why we couldn't see it when we looked for where it had spun. There is another Red Bull liveried car in the field, but that's a Porsche, and that's down towards the very tail of the field.
Isn't it? Yeah. In fact, just coming across the line now to the left-hand side of the circuit, in behind another white 996 GT2.
So frustration for all concerned, but the good news is the fact that Mauro Ricci, and the good news is not that his car was in the pits, it has gone back onto the circuit, so he's lost a lap effectively. Joe Macari back in the pits, and who knows, but obviously he would have picked up some damage, having certainly rubbed the barriers on the left-hand side of the track on the exit of Pouhon. But for everyone else, they're waiting for the signal to get going. But just to refresh your memory, as the safety car leads the field around, Carl Tilley leads in its Ferrari F430 GTC from 2008, from the one that's just 2 years younger, Philip Cadori's version, the XT Modena car. Those two red Ferraris going up towards Les Combes. Tucked in behind is James Thorpe in his Aston Martin, then the Mosler of Dennis Bush, and then everyone else. You can choose your livery. What do you like the most in the bright sunshine? Still looking for the yellow and black Corvette to advance a little bit. John Emberson's gained 1 position since the start, but he's down in 10th place overall. For Joe Macari, he's down in the pits explaining to his crew what went on. We didn't see it, we just saw the outcome.
Yeah, I think we'll have a quick word with him, with Von Sott. He's just been talking to Rob Huff as well. It looked, I think, like he got a little tap, and Joe doesn't look too happy. Let's nip down to Von Sott, who's with Joe Macari.
Voiture 178, le pilote s'appelle Joe Macari.
Joe standing by, waiting with Vincent. I've seen Joe look happier, in fairness.
Yeah. In the pits with Joe Macari, unfortunately it's an early retirement. Joe, what's happened?
Totally my fault. Cold tyres, I was doing happy. I made up my position. I was just where I wanted to be, comfortable with the cars in front. I felt I had no problem with the pace. And then basically I ran out of talent. You know, I made a mistake. The back got away from me. I thought, okay, just a small correction, but it just kept going. Next thing I know, I was spinning, and I thought, yeah. So my own fault, and sadly I can only blame myself today. So.
Possible to repair for tomorrow, you think?
Yeah, for sure. It has just a little bit of damage to the rear, by the look of it, the rear wheel, and maybe the wishbone, but it's just a flesh wound. so not the end of the world, but more pissed off with myself than anything else in reality.
Sorry for this joke.
Looked like bottom wishbone on the left-hand side, actually. Looped it all the way around and backed it in. Moved the barriers quite a bit, and the worry would have been he bounced out into
traffic.
Which he didn't, thank goodness.
Well, I'll tell you what, we're just on the restart. The Ferraris got away, but certainly the Aston Martin in third place did not get going as well as it wanted coming out of that final corner, and has been jumped by Dennis Bush in the Black Mosler. Such a tricky corner for a restart. That really tight 110-degree left-hander on the exit of the bus stop chicane. And if you're not absolutely on it, your car's not straight, then it's a place you can just fail to build momentum. So the two Ferraris, as per the first part of the race, Carl Tilley pulling away from Philip Kaddouri. Dennis Bush now up into third place, the Black Mosler. James Thorpe tucking in behind, trying to make amends in his V8 Vantage. Great engine note from that. And then comes David Hart in fifth. And the bright green Chrome Racing Ferrari of Charlie Scardina. In the background, a change of position because Andrew Jamieson has just moved ahead of Mark Bush. That was a good run up to Les Combes, but again I'm saying up the slope, John, because that's what it is. But down the slope out of Les Combes to Bruxelles we come, and you continue dropping through Speaker's Corner. The drivers haven't got there yet, but it's a wonderful shot. Look at the gap between 7th place, the white Toyota, and the best of the rest. So everyone else really rather caught blinking there, I fear.
And the two Ferraris have done what they did on the original start routes, with Carl Tilley and Philippe Kaddouri pulling away from the rest of the field, and they've got their foot down just at the tail end of the field. By the way, we have got a couple of cars that are just off the back, didn't quite get back around, which is the Porsche, the Hervé Delaunay and Marie-Amélie Delaunay, number 311. So there was that one of the cars that was delayed, must have been. And the number 80 as well, which is the Alex von Bremen, the 996 GT3 RS, the number 60. But they, I think they've actually dropped off the bottom. No, they haven't. Sorry, I'll take that back. They are both still on the lead lap. The car that's lost the lead is the Ferrari 430, the number 30, which was that car that was in the pits earlier. That must have just fallen off that yellow car. Falling off the pits, actually, falling off the lead lap, because it would have seemed that Mauro Ricci's got that car going again. So across the line, the two Ferraris by about 4 seconds. There's the Mosler going through, La Source, and now downhill, and again very steeply. You pick up pace very quickly indeed. Gird your loins, take a deep breath, whatever you need to do as you face what appears to be a wall at the bottom of the hill. Even some very fast road cars, if you're doing the track laps here, you change down a gear to get up the hill. That's how steep that is. And as much as we try to show you, and as many times as we tell you, you cannot understand how steep it is from Eau Rouge to the top of Raidillon, and how quickly you come to Raidillon and it levels off. You're pointing at the sky for quite a long time there. Oh
gosh, you really do. It's an absolute compression and fired up, and that's why most people, if they have a problem at Eau Rouge, is they've gone in on slightly the wrong line and the track has reared up and they've just caught out. So will anybody be able to reel in Kyle Tilley and Philippe Kaddouri? Their Ferraris have got a margin of over 4 seconds, but now the Moser is clear in the background. There it is. I expect it may have a chance, but you know what? These two are lapping so beautifully, so together. Philippe Kaddouri's got the pace. He's waiting for the moment. Did notice fleetingly in the pits that Olivier Hart was dressed, ready to go. On the entry list, it's only Father David Hart, but sometimes they decide on the day if they're going to split the race. And in Le Mans Classic Series, there is a sliding scale of time you have to spend in the pits according to the sort of license grade of the driver who's stepping in. We'll get to that a little bit later, or hopefully not at all. It's far too complicated for me to understand. But right at this early point of the race, nobody has an answer to the two Ferraris that started respectively 4th in the case of race leader Carl Tilley, and 1st in the position of Philippe Kaddouri as they go up towards Blanchimont. What an amazing sweep of track, and it most certainly is uphill. You start at the bottom at Curve Paul Frere or Campus at the bottom, and you look up the slope. It's a very long way up the slope to get to the pits then the highest point, which is La Source, before we go through the hairpin and come down. But right now, looking to the left, looking to the right, trying to unseat the race leader is Philip Kaddouri, but holding firm at the front. Carl Tilley, he's been around the block a few times in races. He's not going to leave the door over to Philip. But this is great racing between them, and the whole way down this field. We started with 33 cars, absolutely epic assembly. Now having a move in the background, David Hart is level with the 4th place Aston Martin, may be able to get in front. James Thorpe just doesn't seem to have the best of luck out of that corner, because of course on the restart when the safety car pulled in, that was where he lost out to the Mosler, but this time he defends from the Dutch Charger from David Hart. David now is going to have a look, get in the slipstream, down past. It's not a straight run, as you can see from this high shot. It's a curve as you come level with the old pits, or the endurance pits that they called now, and then you're into the down, 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 and you've got to get your line right for the first part of Eau Rouge. You're coming, it does look steep there, but as John pointed out, your calf muscles will be on fire if you walk directly up there. But the idea is to get a good exit through the kink in the background. You can see it, little quick flick to the right hand. You're absolutely flat out, and then if you're in the right position, you can slow the car down and maybe just brake a little bit later into this point into Les Combes. But for now, David Hart is not trying. He's having a look. But having gone past the Aston Martin, Dennis Bush has opened out a margin of 2.5 seconds plus, and now he's driving in clean air in the Mosler. Here comes the Mosler down to Bruxelles, braking very, very late into the downhill, long right-hander. Aston Martin, James Thorpe still holding down 4th place. Driver on the move is in 5th place overall. Sorry, where's Andrew Jamieson gone?
Yeah.
He's on my charts. He's dropped down a bit, but I thought he'd gone to 7th. Anyhow, he seems to be listed in 9th. Scardini's in the background of the shot, but chopping and changing. But up front, there is no chopping and changing. As hard as Philip Kaddouri tries, our pole starting driver, he cannot as yet get past Carl Tilley.
And the pit window is open, Bruce, for the driver change. Race control just reminding everyone on the Alcamel timing screen. Thank you to our friends and colleagues at Alcamel. What a great addition they have been to this series. Good to work with them as we do so often around the world nowadays. So the 2 Ferraris gone, basically, and it's fighting for the scraps. Philip Kaddouri did put the fastest lap of the race in last time around, but I mean by hundredths actually. 2:26.032 is the best lap. 2:26.075, and Kyle Tilley's just taken that down to a 25.588 and a 25.555 for Philippe Kaddouri. But this is almost like a demonstration that we're seeing at the front with these 2 430s. Of course, they are the same car. They would have run like this in periods, and 2 very accomplished drivers showing us exactly what we expected from them.
Right, we talked about the pit window being open. David Hart did indeed, was the first one to blink. Nobody else has come in, so he's come in, so we were right in seeing Olivier Hart. But the driver on the move is Dr. Afshin Fatemi. There he is in the Aston Martin making his moves. He's now 2nd of the Aston Martins, as it has been since the start of the race, but he's moved up. He's into 5th place now behind James Thorpe, both elevated by David Hart diving in from that 5th position. But they've managed to, certainly the red and blue Aston Martin with Afshin Fatemi at the wheel has got past the ex-Chrome Racing Ferrari of Charlie Scardina. Now we've got a yellow flag somewhere on the circuit. Don't know who's had a slip and a slide, but certainly our front 2 runners separated us half a second. Oh, and it's the longest of long slides, and a beautiful bit of collection there from the number 14 Porsche. That was a very, very good save indeed.
Yeah, that is another classic colourway, isn't it? And who was that was having to avoid as well on the grass? The grass is quite dry, so that is good news. So there is a little bit of, was that the Peter Chambers 77 Porsche that was avoiding that?
I
in the
didn't see it.
Felbermeyer colours.
Yeah, I didn't see enough to make a gap. Already we've got some lapping going on. The Stephen Edwards driven 997 GT3. We've got Matt Neal, ex-British touring car superstar, waiting to take that over, but he has already been lapped, so Matt's going to have to press on to catch a bit of bodywork at the edge of the circuit as they come up towards Blanchimont. I don't know if it got loosened by someone running wide, going through curve Paul Frere, but Philippe Kaddouri again taking a look in that right-hand kink just before you get to the bus stop. Don't expect either of those to dive into the pits unless Philippe's thinking, you know what, I can come in and make my pit stop now because I'm just being held up by the race leader, but not by much. They continue on their way. In the background, a lapped 9:11. Just waiting for next to Moses coming through. That's continuing as well. Dennis Bush in third.
Do you get the feeling that Philippe Kaddouri has a bit more in that car? Is he just stalking the leader? And actually, the driver name has just changed on that leading car to Phil Keane.
Well, that's a little handy.
What, doing your driver change whilst out on the circuit?
It's a virtual driver change. Well, I mean, if it's going fast, it's got Phil Keane, that sort of tallies, but if it goes fast, it could equally have Carl Tilley. But if that's Phil Keane, well, that's a very useful driver to have on board. And let's say a lot of the entry lists are very much changeable.
That has literally changed last time across the line here.
You start feeling as though you've gone a bit mad when you've been staring at a name and it's now spelt differently.
Yes. Mosler coming through to the end of the Kemmel Straight. Decent battle going on between the Invitational Aston, that is the V12, and the Scardina Ferrari, the Krone Aviation machine. My goodness, I remember seeing those cars in the American Le Mans Series in the early 2000s, or back in the day, as some people might say.
Filling air there, John, filling air. They could be right. Right, so in the pit lane we have James Thorpe's Aston Martin in. That's the V8 Vantage, and that's going to be taken over by Phil Quaife. Again, it's all about your driver lineups. In the background with the Hawaiian Trophic car being pushed around, that may suggest Matt Neal is not getting out unless they've been told they have to swivel the cars. Normally you're supposed to put them at 45 degrees, but putting them back in the garages, and also the pace we saw for the Edwards car suggested maybe all is not right, because I wouldn't have expected to see that being lapped, particularly with the safety car period to bunch up the field. So alas, maybe Matt Neal won't get his run in this Endurance Racing Lead 2 category race. For everyone else, though, fantastic race at the bunks. PK from PK, Phil Keane from Philippe Kaddouri. Separated by 1.5 seconds, a much, much better lap for the race leader. Up to this point, John, it's only been half a second at most as the gap between first and second. Yeah,
that's doubled in just the last lap, and most of that came in sector 2 for Phil Keane, where he took 1.2 seconds out of Philippe Kaddouri.
I would suggest that was possibly a location of back markers ahead of them, because
I think so.
You know, unless there was a slip from Philippe Kaddouri, you know, he had to really gather it together. No. So the JMW
Kaddouri's pitted. Kaddouri's pitted as well. Yeah. So he's sneaking in down the pit lane, tight to the wall on driver's left-hand side. The sunshine on the catch fencing, making it rather difficult for us to see across the track, but I promise you that is where he is. We don't use the exits of the Formula One. Everybody goes all the way down the endurance pits and pops out to driver's right at Radillon, just so that there's a bit of continuity throughout the weekend. And for the most part as well, we will be having rolling starts. Now, Aston Martin. Now, this is key here at the moment, because this Aston Martin has done its pit stop, and that is one of the leading cars that's done its pit stops.
Yeah, but what he couldn't do was keep back something that was always going to be difficult. Olivier Hart's got in his father's car, the number 130 Ferrari, went past, in fact got so close to him at Les Combes, very nearly hit the tail end, was braking much later than the Aston Martin. And just watch, remember the Ferrari 130, we'll see how high it can go. It would have been a longer pit stop because the driver rating of Olivier Hart, but last year in streaming wet conditions in the dark, I can't remember which of the races he was in here, he was on another planet. Quite the best drive I've seen for years at Spa.
I'd agree. 2 minutes and 10 seconds, a little over actually, for the pit stop window. So realistically now, the lap you're on, if you haven't done your pit stop, you need to do it now. You really can't, well, you can't now go around another lap. It's actually, you're cutting it pretty fine here. If there'd been a safety car there, and we've seen that happen here, Bruce, in these races. You get caught out, you think, oh, I've got 3.5 minutes, and it's only a 2 minute 15 lap, 2 minute 25 lap. I'll be, oh, safety car. And then you blow your pit stop time.
Yeah, probably in the quest of saving half a second, and the whole thing is erased. But now Phil Quaife getting the move on. He's going around the outside of Charlie Scardina. Charlie hasn't pitted yet, so he's actually unlapping himself. But Charlie in the green and blue Ferrari will then have to come and serve his pit stop time, and that will sort of settle it out, and then we'll see where they all stand after the pit stops have been served. Remember, this is a 40-minute race for the Endurance Racing Legends 2 category. And it does look as though it could be a Ferrari charge, and certainly just look out for Olivier Hart. Charlie Scardina does go in to serve his pit stop, and then we'll see where he is relative to that ex-JMW Motorsport Aston Martin when he comes out. But look at the gap already, the number 130. I've answered a query. I wondered whose bodywork it was just before Blanchimont on the outside of the circuit, where we next see the front of the Toyota of Mark Bush. You'll notice the front right wing, from the driver's point of view, the top part of it has gone AWOL. I have solved the problem.
Well done.
Well done, the camera crews who picked it up. But hot and busy in the pit lane, but almost everybody has come in to serve their stops. But the big question for me is, where will the Phil Keane car be when it's handed over, of course, to the driver who started it at number 74, or who didn't start it, Kyle Tilley? Or will indeed Phil do all the race? You don't know in these circumstances, but certainly we thought Kyle Tilley had started the 74 Ferrari, and then suddenly, just before pit stops, what did we get? We got Phil Keane on board.
And Phil has been trading fastest lap with Philip Kadori, 2 Phillips there. Now that car, the Kadori car, has gone back out. Philip Kadori is driving on his own, isn't he? So that is right. The number 48 car, and I reckon that is the lead car now that has made its pit stop, coming down to Fagnes with traffic ahead, and that's the Tansy Porsche, the 251 car, also on an outlap. Needs to get rid of that car as quickly as possible, has done. So Kadori now coming back onto the old circuit, as it's still called. Good heavens, after all these years. And let's see how quickly the Ferrari, the Mosler, the Scardina Ferrari, the number 57 car, that's the bright green machine, the Fonrit car as well, is right in the mix, having just made its stop. They've gone longer. So has the gamble paid off? The leader, having completed the pit stops, is the Philip Kadori Ferrari, the number 48, coming out of the final corner now. Battles all the way down the field. But the front of the field, I'm trying to see who's got out. The 75 car has got out. That is the Mosler. Now, did the Mosler get out? No, just behind, but they've vaulted up a couple of positions, I reckon. So it will be Kadori that is leading on the Camel Straight. He's just gone past the Schindler 997 GT3 RSR Porsche, the number 174 car, I think. Yes, it is. They're on an outlap as well. And we've got some cars coming in. I think they have missed their pit stop, and Nigel Greensall is one of them in the Corvette, and Dr. Fatemi, Hashemi Fatemi as well in the V12 Vantage. I think they're a wee bit too late for that. See if the penalties come up later. The leader then, I reckon, is Philippe Kadori. The battle further down, the Schindler and Terrail Porsches, 11th and 12th. They are on the Camel, going up the Camel at the moment. Right ahead of them, that goes through the number 59. That is the Terrail car. 59, very much a Brumos number, but not a Brumos car. Although we do have some red, white and blue Brumos cars here this weekend. Porsches. When I say Brumos, obviously I feel I really sort of don't have to add Porsche to the end of a sentence when we're talking about Brumos. But hello to James O'Donnell. Great coverage from a glorious circuit. If you haven't been here, why not? Is the answer to the question. Right, so there's the Team Modena car, the 48. Well, my tracker has those cars the other way around. So this is the effective battle for the lead then, with the Mosler leading, with Kadori in second. That's the first time we've seen them with our own eyes. So the black and yellow Mosler in the pit stop cycle has got through into the lead. The big V8 rumbling away. Now, question is, can that number 75 stay ahead? Traffic coming. Lap traffic, albeit, but still traffic. Right at the top of the hill now, and gets a decent run past the Gilles Boyer Porsche. Both of them together as they go down to Brussels. There was a dive down the inside. The Mosler holds the racing line. Kadori having a look at Bush for the lead. Through that downhill left-hander. No name or Speaker's Corner. It was called Speaker's Corner because it was the only place you could see at the top of the hill from the old commentary box. Drivers left down the endurance start-finish straight. Through P1 then. Down to Fane, down the inside. This is the pass for the lead, and the Ferrari goes through. Two mid-engine cars battling together, two very different philosophies. And it is Oliver Hart in third place in the 130. That's the second of the red Ferraris. So the Mosler is the meat in the 430 bread sandwich. So Mosler being the filling at the moment. Kadori then with a middle sector. Well, in fact, actually he took over a second in sectors 1 and 2, including the pass. And looks like David Bush is not going to beat a hold back. Olivia Hart as well. The number 130 about to make up its position and go back into second place. Only had David Hart against that, but and we've got the 77 Felbermeyer, the Peter Chambers car, having gone around. That's the GT2C 12th position car, 17th overall. Oh, Mosler still holds on to second. Eau Rouge up the hill. How does he get out of Radion? Answer, not quite quickly enough. And Hart then goes to the right, then to the left. The daisies in full bloom on the grass. Beautiful pictures. Fantastic conditions here. Under braking, the nose of the Ferrari goes down to the tarmac at Lucombe. And it's Ferraris and the prancing horse back to 1 and 2. Now, a moment or two, little incident at the Lecombe area, and that was the Chambers Porsche going around. The Felbermeyer number 77. Peter will not be happy with himself over that one. Just offline a little bit. It's anything like it was for the FIA WEC. Offline was really not very grippy at all 2 weeks ago. So a couple of people making what we'd normally say were unforced errors. So now the battle is on for the lead. Round the outside. Are you kidding me? At Fine, not happening. Excuse me, that was P1 coming down to Fine now. That was the first part of P1. Now through to Curve Paul Frere. Oh. Sometimes called karting. Le call. Now on the run to Blanchimont. This is allowing the Mosler to catch back up again. The black and yellow Mosler in third. And I think Hart's gone through. Has he gone through? Is it the black wheels or the Silver Whales leading. No, it's still Kadori who leads, but the Silver Whales have caught him up. Hart then, right there. Will it be the dive down the inside? 0.2 of a second across the line. Defensive line taken into La Source, the right-hander at the start of the lap. That'll kill the momentum down the hill. Here's the opportunity. Who's going to be brave? And Bush holding a watching brief behind. Down to Eau Rouge. Team Modena car with maybe a car's advantage. But up to the top of the hill, we have seen that Hart car is very good indeed. There are two Ferraris there, I promise you. The same shade of Rosa Corsa. To the right, to the left, back to the right again, down the inside, over the curbs at Le Comte. Forceful move by Hart. And defensively, there was no opportunity for Kadori to respond. He thought he'd covered the corner. Hart goes all four wheels onto the curb. Down to Bruxelles, he's already pulled out a decent gap. And Kadori, actually, Philip Kadori having to move offline and actually go off the circuit to avoid contact. Well, still 5 minutes to go. Now, the question will be, is there anything left right up over the orange and red curbs to drivers right? Philip Kadori in the Modena car, closest to the camera, discretion being the better part of valor, and decided to stay well out of that one. Now, will traffic help this battle? Fourth place, by the way, is Phil Quaife now in that V8 Vantage, the number 92, and that's the one that he shares with James Thorpe. James started the Dunlop livery car from the front row, and Phil Quaife is not hanging about either. His last lap faster by some margin, almost a full second, in fact just over a full second, than the leaders. And as of course, as I say that, the leader goes through and ticks off another one. But keep an eye on Phil Quaife, actually, because he is only a couple of seconds away from a podium spot here as he's hunting down the Mosler. That white number 59 still circulating, leading the GT2 part of the race. Oh, three across the track. And the Supra's right in it there with the Chevrolet Corvette. So that's the Bush Green Sol, and that's the Dr. Fatemi Aston Martin right there as well. So overall, that's 6th, 7th and 8th. Was John Scardina in amongst that as well? I don't know. Yes, he was. In the green, bright green number 57. Still keeping an eye on Phil Quaife. He's closing down a spot on the podium as we're watching the white and red Supra just get it slightly wrong coming through Le Comte, but it's compromised the run down the hill. Goes wide again, and Scardina, Charlie Scardina in that number 57, there's half a chance there. Corvette is cleared away from this. Nigel Greensall now in 6th position and in some clear air. A slightly suboptimal in terms of aerodynamic Supra. Leading GT2B for the middle age of cars. Now, our leader. Have a heart. Down into the new bus stop, or the relatively new bus stop, but it's not as it was back in the old days when it was in fact a stop for buses. I am, sad to say, old enough to remember in these parts of the circuit were still public road for the majority of the year. So Hart goes through. That car's best at 2:23.5, and now the gap is 5 seconds to Philippe Kaddouri. And Quaif's up into third. He's passed the Mustang. The Mosler. Not even the right V8 power plant there, Heindel. 6.7 seconds between him and the leader, but huge lumps of time being taken out. So the Aston Martin, the Dunlop Aston Martin, James Thorpe started it. Phil Quaif is finishing it. He's already on the podium. Mosler in 4th position. That's the first of the twin Busch cars. Phil Keane in the number 74 Ferrari in 5th position. Now, is that Phil, or did they change drivers at the pit stop? And is that Kyle Tilley now in the number 74 red Ferrari? That was at the sharp end of the field. And the IMSA Matmut Porsche has ground to a halt at pit exit at Eau Rouge. Leader's got a bit of a hurry up one here. Over Hart. Philippe Kaddouri under pressure now in the number 48. Ferrari 430. Just passing the bodywork from the Supra to driver's right at Blanchimont. Now this is the last lap. Time had elapsed, so it's a short blast through the gearbox, and it will be a win for Ferrari in our first race of the weekend. David and Olivier Hart in the 2010 130. Big run to the line, and it's a change right to the line for Phil Quaif, who pips Phil Kaddouri. And the Mosler right in there as well. Well, what a drive back from the Aston Martin V8 Vantage. Just waiting to see what that gap was. Barely 0.3 of a second. So outstanding work by Phil Quaif. 8.5 seconds behind the leader, but nicking away that second place that looked nailed on for Philippe Kaddouri. Then it's the Busch Mosler. Phil Keane finishing off in 5th position for the Ferrari number 74. Shares with Kyle Tilley. Not sure that those driver IDs were the right way around. Nigel Greensell up to 6th in the Corvette. Charlie Scardina in the Ferrari 430, the green Krone Aviation car, in 7th. And there are all the GT2C cars. Ashim Fatemi, Dr. Fatemi, takes the Invitational class in 8th position. Not sure he got his pit stop done, so we'll see if there's any penalties on that. But the Aston in 8th, the number 16 car. Then the Supra winning GT2B in 9th position. That was the other one of the Busch twins. Top 10 made up by Rob Huff in the Ferrari 430, number 78. That he was sharing with Richard Mines. Richard started that car. Just outside the top 10. Good battle, actually, between a couple of Porsches, albeit in different classes. Gunther Schindler in the 174 and 11th in GT2C, and then right behind him, that mainly white number 59 of Rémi Tarel and he wins the GT2A category. He's on the Camel Straight at the moment in the Freisinger liveried car. So a lap of honour, if you will. Well, there you go. We're underway. 15 laps completed. Hartquave Cadore on the podium. Ferrari, Aston Martin V8 Vantage and Ferrari. Two 2010 cars actually in there. And the 2008 machine just fading into 5th position, having been very competitive early on. Waiting for the winner to come back around. You may have noticed the lack of Bruce talking in the last few minutes. That's because he's headed off down to our garage. Yeah, we have a garage here. And Bruce has set up a few guests down there. So he's headed down that way. I'll join him down there in a moment. As the leaders come in to Parc Fermé. Now it is a little bit of a trek from them. Aston Martin is the fabulous livery of the Dunlop car. Jim McWhirter's team, JWM, Jim McWhirter Motorsport. Yeah, it's a pretty good run, isn't it, from the guys that won. Oliver Hart and that distinctive black and white helmet. David Hart alongside of his dad. Looked like an easy victory in the end, but nothing is ever that easy. 8.5 seconds. These cars will be back out again across the weekend. So that's got you in the mood for it, I hope. That's the GT2A winner just coming in to the pit lane. Remy Terrell. 12th position overall, you know, I think you'd be quite happy with that.
Olivier, at the end of race one, you are the first winner of the weekend. Maybe it will not be the last time we do it this weekend, but okay, how was it?
It was good, it was great. A lot of fun, a bit of hard racing, but hard racing is also racing, so now it's good. And I'm happy we finished P1, and my dad was taking very good care of the car and keeping with the top group. So I'm now happy, and I think we will have a nice second race as well with this car, because this is really nice.
At Les Combes, it was a little bit hot with Philippe Cadore.
Yes, I was on the inside, and he kept on steering on the inside, even he knew I was there. So, yeah, I was on the track with the wheels, and he went off. Yeah, I can't do anything about that. And even when you cut the track and then don't pass me, I know it is what it is. And I just kept on the track and finished P1, so I'm happy.
It's the first victory for the Hart family this weekend, and probably not the last one.
It's a fair point, well made, Vincent. Haven't seen any messages from race control to say that was being looked at. There wasn't any contact. I wonder what Philippe Cadore will say about that. He'll feel he had to take avoiding action. Olivia Hart saying that he was absolutely certain he was all four wheels still on the track. Close racing, fair racing, no paint. No paint finish was harmed in the changing of that lead. Phil Quaife just coming over to congratulate them. Second place in the Aston Martin, the V8 Aston Martin, that he shares with James Thorpe, who's just popped in as well.
Especially for this track. Yeah. So good. I was almost full throttle now.
what a great way to kick off the weekend. And as you can see, Bruce and I have decanted ourselves down to the pit lane. This is the old endurance pits, and right out there, track, and in fact, the old front straight. As you can also see, Kyle Tilley is alongside us. You had us over a little bit there, Kyle. Let's be quite honest, you weren't in that car at all there. That was Phil Keane doing double duty.
Yeah, no, unfortunately a bit under the weather this weekend. Nothing contagious, so you haven't got to worry. But yeah, Keeney was super sub, and yeah, he did a great job. Unfortunate with his talent, he gets a massive elite penalty, so P5, but I think we gave the car a good showing.
Yeah, that's something, if you're new to Le Mans Classic Series, there's a lot of extra rules you need to understand, and they have a fantastic phrase for it. If you've got a driver with a high ranking, they pick up a time penalty called the burden of glory. That's one way of dressing it up for you, isn't it?
It just makes it sound more palatable, doesn't it, rather than it being just a penalty. It's the burden of glory.
So, nothing more for you this weekend? The 430 is the only car we're going to see from ERA going out?
Yeah, unfortunately, my it's been one of those weekends. My co-driver in 60s and in the GT3 Revival, he's also had to go home, unfortunately, for a family issue. So, at this point, despite the lovely weather, which is most unusual, I don't remember the last time I've been at Spa and it's been like this. Yeah, we're calling it a day early.
This is 2 weekends in 3 weekends that I've been here, and both times the weather's been like, I'm going to have to start bringing my gear with me just in case, aren't I? My licence.
Honestly, after the weather we had last weekend at the Nürburgring, I think this is most welcome.
Let's talk about that, because ERA Motorsport is moving across the decades, basically. We've seen you particularly in American racing, in the IMSA Championship, the WeatherTech Sports Car Championship. Why the move into historic racing? And it's a move that you did just a few short years ago, but my goodness me, you've thrown yourselves into it with the UK operation.
So when ERA was conceived, it was purely centred around historic racing, and the modern side of things came afterwards. And then from 2021 onwards, I set up a workshop in the UK, which mainly just focuses on the historic side of things. And for me, it's a passion project. I love the cars. I love how you have to drive the cars. And yeah, it's not as intense as some of the modern stuff, so therefore it can become more enjoyable. And, you know, it's mostly just about the cars, let's face it.
Yeah, and I mean that comes across when you're in this paddock. A lot of drivers and teams do multiple races with multiple cars, and it is those fortunate enough to have the money to have a good toy box, a very, very good toy box. But another element is the quality of the teams that are rising, getting stronger with the years in terms of historic preparation.
Yeah, I think, you know, the level over the last sort of 3-4 years in historic racing, it's no different to a British GT or a regular SRO paddock. The level of the teams competing is yeah, pretty serious.
Well, Kyle, we wish you all the best, and I mean, you're going to be fit for Dijon, for Le Mans Classic. We'll see you and some of the cars then.
Yes, you will see me at Dijon. Unfortunately, I am also committed that weekend in the more modern stuff with the 296.
Of course you are. Yes.
So I'll be going backwards and forwards between the two.
Right, oh, okay. Excellent stuff. Kyle Tilley joining us here in the pit box. We'll swap Kyle out right now and bring in another one of our guests. You can probably hear some cars going round on the circuit behind me. That the very fortunate club members who are in. And Bruce Jones, you're going to bring in a guest for us while I'm talking to the camera and listening to those road cars going around.
Yeah, there's a special prize for the person who travels furthest for his racing, so Scott O'Donnell, please step forward and join us at the table. Scott is no stranger to Europe, but a New Zealander who does his racing in New Zealand, but increasingly, Scott, around the world. You're up this time for the GT3 Revival, a series that's just absolutely blossoming.
Yeah, very much so. So done a bit up in this part of the world. Want to go to all the world's best tracks as a bit of a bucket list type thing, and here we are at Spa. You can't go wrong.
The sun is shining, but just looking, of course, you'll be looking at all the races, ones you might want to do in future.
Yep.
Everyone's got a shopping list, but for the GT3 Revival series, it's just growing and growing, and the sheer number of cars and the spread of manufacturers is stonking.
Well, I think there was 3,000 GT3 cars produced. So you've got a very good client base to start with. The cars have generally been well maintained by the owners. They're probably gentlemen owners that could afford to maintain them well. So they're all in pretty good nick. The factory supported them parts-wise. And they're just nice cars to drive. They go fast, they handle well. And as long as you maintain them, they're quite reliable.
Now, obviously, you do your racing in New Zealand. You promoting earlier the Invercargill race meeting, the Scott Begg, but there must be other people at home who looking up to you. You've come up before, but what else have you raced here? Because you're sort of mixing and matching before coming to GT3, which you'll be doing at Le Mans.
Yeah.
What were you up for last time?
Well, if you go right back to the first time I came to Europe, race was Nürburgring 24-hour in 2006 in a Renault Clio Cup car, which is a great wee thing for you.
Did you win?
No, as it turns out. And then told the Kiwi boys, hey, this is good fun. This is tick the box stuff. So we bought a 996 Cup car all the way from New Zealand with a full team and ran Nürburgring in 07 or 08, one of the two. And we've finished both events. So very happy to finish those events because you've had rain and fog and all those challenges that event brings. Done a lot of Bathurst stuff because it's next door. Started bringing more stuff back to Europe. 16, bought some historic touring cars. Funnily enough, Paul Radisich is a pretty famous New Zealander, did a lot of touring car stuff. He did very well, very capable driver, and Paul still drives quite a few of my cars now back in New Zealand. I've got the 94 World Touring Car Cup Mondeo that he won Donington in.
Nice.
So it came back and it ran in 16. And so we bring Paul out and he does great jobs for us and drives the car well. And so that was 16, we bought some more touring cars back. 18, I came here and did a 3-hour in a Capri, Group 1 Capri. COVID got in the way. The Capri was in a ship mid-COVID. Didn't get much success. And then around historic touring cars, last year we bought a Honda Super Tourer of a friend of mine, Nigel Arkell. I've got a Ford Sierra Cosworth. My other friend who's here this weekend, Alan Dippy, has a proper Tom Walkinshaw Rover. Yeah. And I also had a Mondeo Super Tourer, and we ran those around Brands Hatch, Silverstone, Nürburgring.
I was in New Zealand for the first time earlier this year, South Island, went to Highlands, called some GT3 races there, had a little bit of a skid around in an SR2, Radical, and had a great time. It seems to me, actually, not just in motor racing, but in all sports, Scott, New Zealand punches above its weight. In terms of how many people there are, and how many facilities there are, and how many world-class athletes of whatever description, you guys what is in the water in New Zealand, whether it's New Zealand, rugby, cricket. I love the fact that the basketball team are called the Tall Blacks. I think that's one of the greatest things ever. But motorsport's exactly the same. There's little circuits dotted all over the place.
Accessibility, as you say, we've got circuits every 2 hours drive, and they're pretty much club circuits, very low cost. I mean, our economy's small, and our cost to do things is about a tenth of what it is in this part of the world. So we get an absolute fright of the cost of coming here, but you've got to do something. So the cost of motorsport in New Zealand is cheap on the world scale. It's still dear for those who are earning New Zealand dollars. The other thing is, most of our guys are half mechanical. They may be a young guy, they'll be playing with motorbikes or playing with old cars, and there's space and green paddocks to go and do skids in. Rallying's also very, very strong because access to gravel roads. I mean, I'm not sure. Something like only a third of our roads in New Zealand are tar sealed. So you've got a huge amount of gravel available to drive on at slow speeds. Grass paddocks are available for gymkhanas. And I think our guys understand they've just got to go and work harder. No one's really got the silver spoon situation. They've just got to work really hard. Look, and they do.
That stems back to Bruce McLaren. I mean, what made Bruce so great, apart from the fact he operated a Formula 1 team with only 8 people in it, at least 5 of which were Kiwis, of course, like Howden Ganley and so on and so forth. But it's because you had to make, do and mend, and I think on top of that, it's the fact that whatever you do, sport is so massively important, whether you're playing for the Black Frisbees or whatever. It doesn't matter. You do it to take on the big guys.
And it's important for us to beat Australia first, England second, and,
And then
we go from
everybody
there.
else.
Yeah.
And then everybody else.
And Rugby South Africa.
Yeah, no, but exactly how the balance has changed. But
Yeah.
just one thought: when I caught up with you earlier, you were remembering something when you were driving a Formula 5000 car at Goodwood. Explain the situation.
We bought a couple of Bieg. So the George Bieg story, but we run a historic event called the George Bieg Festival in New Zealand. It's March every 2 years, and George is very much a copy of Bruce McLaren, who never really left New Zealand much.
Right.
So he lived through the 60s and 70s, produced 18 single-seat race cars. He came to work for Bruce quite regularly because his wife was from Isle of Man. He'd come over for a holiday and worked for Bruce for quite some months, and lots of stuff got taken home. So we bought 2 big Formula 5000 cars from New Zealand for the Formula 5000 demo at Goodwood all those years ago when it snowed.
Yeah.
And it's the first time I've ever got basically frostbite while driving a race car.
You had to be there to see it. As it was unfolding, I was standing in the pits. All our equipment was failing because it was just couldn't do with sub-zero, and that surreal element of a car coming at great pace, not just a car, a single-seater.
Yeah.
Whoa.
Yeah, that was quite challenging when you've got tyres that couldn't get anywhere near temperature. Yeah.
Well, Scott, thank you very much for making the effort, A, to come and see us, but B, the far greater effort than walking across the paddock to come all the way here. Have a great weekend. I'm sure you will.
Great. Thank you very much.
Thanks very much, Scott. I'm going to slide away as well as Chris Ward comes up to join us, because I think there's a race coming up I need to commentate on, John.
There is indeed, but we're going to squeeze in one more guest as Scott and Bruce take their leave and dash away. And this is... See, I still think of him as a young gentleman, because he and I, our paths crossed many years ago at Rockingham Motor Speedway.
A long time ago, but good memories.
I was just telling Bruce, actually, on the way in this morning about John Pratt and Duncan Vercoen running the driving school there. Tell me about Legacy Outlaws. Chris Ward joining us now here in the pits. Tell me about Legacy Outlaws and how you guys go racing in a slightly different way to what might be considered the norm, Chris.
It is slightly different in the way that the cars are all prepared at different preparers, and then they're brought to the event, and everybody runs under the Legacy Outlaws umbrella. So we've got different preparers working together. It's a great opportunity for them to learn from one another and just generally have a great time, which is what the event is about.
And why classic racing, and why particularly the new for 2026 Le Mans Classic Series by Peter Auto?
I think the opportunity to race at some fantastic circuits is paramount. The organisation is exceptional, and the racing is quality. And you only need to look at the grids that are out there. They're all fully subscribed. They're all with people with very well prepared cars, and not only do the drivers like it, the teams like it, but the spectators too.
Now, what about this move relatively recently by Peter Auto and the Le Mans Classic Series to extend into some newer cars? I was at the first Le Mans Classic years ago. It's a quarter of a century ago, and nothing had changed till then. Is it the right thing to do to bring some of these, what have to be said, were halo cars for maybe half a generation or a generation further on from me? Is it the right thing to do to bring those into the classic arena now?
Yes, for sure, and I think you hit the nail on the head there. It's generational, and at the end of the day, what I had on my bedroom wall is different from the next person. And the younger people need the opportunity to enjoy motorsport too, and enjoy historic motorsport, and hence bringing GT3 in has been a fantastic idea. It's resurrected the cars, it's brought new teams in, and some existing teams that are running current GT cars as well.
Now, you've got within your setup a variety of different cars. I bumped into Jan Magnussen yesterday when we came in. What's it like having Jan Magnussen in the team with you?
Oh, what an opportunity for me to be able to put myself up against an ex-F1 driver and somebody that's competed in high stream and high profile GT racing for the last however many years. For me to be able to put myself up against him is a real challenge, and one that I think I can be very proud of, and the team too, to be involved with such a prolific racer.
And as you said, this all goes under the the Legacy Outlaws banner. So you're all working together, may have been drawn from different parts of the country. There's one of the cars, the Lola, is prepared up in my old stomping ground up in Darlington.
That's it.
In the northeast of England. You're coming from different parts of the country. What's the logistics of doing that and being able to make sure that that turns out effectively as an operation that looks correct and everything is being done correctly when you've got people effectively from different preparation houses?
Yep, I think that's largely down to my wife and myself managing that scenario and bringing the people together. And the main thing is that the boss is happy. And his mantra is literally make people as happy as possible and let's go racing and have fun. It's about being at a race circuit and an event, not just a motor race. So it's all encompassing.
I think you've said a word there that's very important, that these Le Mans Classic Series by Peter Otto, they are events.
Correct.
There's a great feeling in the paddock. I mean, quite honestly, of course, the sunshine helps here, but even when we haven't had the weather in the past, there's almost a family feeling, almost a festival feeling.
Correct.
Every event that we get to.
And there's a huge amount of camaraderie amongst the teams. We're here to enjoy ourselves, and we're here to go racing, but also, as you say, make an event of it. And it's as much about going out for a beer and a pizza in the evening as it is going racing. And that's the wonderful thing about the Peter Auto events, is they are events and they're not just motor races.
How many cars have you got here this weekend?
We've got 2 cars here this weekend.
So you just the 2 Lolas?
Correct.
The big T70 and the little 292.
Yep.
That little 292. We'll see it later on. It's like a little scalpel, isn't it? It's fantastically precise.
It's a beautiful car, and I'm very privileged. It's the first time I've driven it this weekend. And
have you got on with it?
I've thoroughly enjoyed it. It's quite different to drive than the T70, and sort of back into single-seater driving technique, really, with the aero and the slick tyres.
Well, it's effectively, it's almost an old Formula 3 underneath, isn't it, when you see it with the bodywork off?
Yeah, very much so.
If you looked at a Formula 3 of that era, you would go, yeah, I can see what's going on there.
And what's very special about a lot of the cars on the grids here today is the history of the cars. And for me, that's part of it as well. So the little 292 was the prototype Lola. And so you look at the chassis, and it's quite different to a lot of the other cars because it's got different pickup points, 3 choices, so that they could effectively productionize the following cars. So being able to drive a car that's steeped in that sort of history and driven by people like Guy Edwards in very high-profile events in period is fantastic.
Is there a responsibility? I love to see cars racing, and I love to see all cars moving. Museums are okay, but even for street cars, I'd prefer to see them running around. Racing cars, for me, should be racing. When you take them out, and for me, you're honouring the designers, the mechanics of the era, the driver of the era that they came from. But with a car that's so important as that Lola 292 being the first one, the development car, there's a responsibility to keep it in that way. You don't want to damage it.
For sure, there is a responsibility, but at the same time, we all want to do well as part of a team. So we drive within our limits, and we drive as hard as we can. And for me, it's about trying to follow in Jan's footsteps and try to get closer to him each time I go out in the car.
So that's what you're setting yourself against, Jan Magnussen?
Yeah, definitely, and what a challenge that is.
That's pretty cool. If I'd told you that when we were working together at Rockingham all those years ago, you'd have patted me on the head and walked away muttering something darkly, wouldn't you?
Indeed, yeah. But it's also great. Jan's a cool guy. He's very down to earth, and he's very willing to share knowledge as well, which from my point of view is very beneficial and helps me as a driver progress myself too.
Chris, thank you for joining us.
Pleasure.
Great to
Thank
meet
you
you and Jill this weekend. Legacy Outlaws with a couple of cars coming later on in our weekend's coverage. Bruce Jones has headed back to the commentary booth now and is standing by to bring you the next action. And then I'll join him in a few moments' time. What's next on track, Mr. Jones?
Thank you very much, John. So track action of the club variety has come to conclusion. A lot of lucky drivers getting their session on the fabled Spa-Francorchamps circuit. Fans still seeking shade rather than sunshine, but we're set to go racing with the Endurance Racing Legends 1. That's the Le Mans prototype and GT1 class cars. So a step up from the first race of the meeting, which was the GT2 subclass, if you will. But before that, when the cars go on the grid, the race is due to start at 15:40, so 25 minutes or so from now. There is going to be a grid walk, and it's always very, very special to go out on the grid, so I'm sure a lot of people are queuing up to do that. We will have Vincent Franson down there at some point to pick up some interviews with the drivers, maybe with some of the lucky people on the grids. But we're now starting to stretch our legs here at Spa-Francorchamps, and you cannot believe how warm the weather is. It's high 20s. It feels like high summer. Just a week ago, when just across the border at Spa-Francorchamps, we were having sleet falling ahead of the 24 hours, and certainly you get the same weather precisely here. So it was high 2 weekends ago for the World Endurance Championship here, where more than 102,000 people came in the doors across the weekend. But this weekend so far, and even yesterday on Friday, it's been chock full of fans. It is just the most spectacular circuit to watch on. Brilliant vantage points, but not just from the grandstands. You can work your way around to brilliant points around this classic circuit, walking up high through the forest, the Ardennes. But when the sky is blue here, it really is magical. In many ways, it's also magical when it's hurling it down with rain. But I think for the fans here this weekend, for Le Mans Classic Series visits, for the Spa Classic, they'll tick the box for this one. Oh, awful lot of racing running through the rest of today. Endurance Racing Legends 1 is the next one up, as I've explained. After that, at 4:35, it's Gentleman Challenge. So much older, less high-performance car, but an incredible array of machinery in that. And then we go to the the fourth race, which is Classic Endurance Racing 1. And that will be down to start at 5:30. Then we have another Classic Club session out on the circuit. Then we have the 60s Endurance. It's a really mix and match field of cars, and some fantastic cars you won't have seen for many years. The GT3 Revival, their race will be at, by the way, sorry, the 60s Endurance event is for 2 full hours, so it's a fantastic crack for those drivers on this brilliant circuit. GT3 Revival at 9:25 for 50 minutes, and then 10:35 in the evening till 11:15. It's the Endurance Racing Legends 2, which is the GT2 cars. We've just had their first race. We've got through that. John Hindhoff has set a new record from sprinting from the TV set into the undercroft beneath the upper paddock, and then into the TV truck, up the stairs, into the commentary booth. Welcome back.
I've been asked about that last race. It will be dark then.
Oh, yes.
It won't be, we don't have lights here. And they are running, for the most part, they're running on period lights. So that's going to be really... Last year we had biblically torrential rain, and in fact, sensibly, we didn't actually run the last race. So I'm really looking forward to that. Great to see some new and old faces down in the paddock studio, which was nice, and just gives you an idea, by the way, looking at the stream now, how warm it is out there, that the vast majority of people have sought shade underneath that relatively new grandstand at the top of Radion, and there's a whole bunch of road cars that have just come back in, tinging and pinging, and they've been well used, shall we say.
Well, as I would say, rude not to. So the key is to get a cooling drink. Beer can be applied if you feel like it, and shade for the moment. The paddock is absolutely abuzz with people. And then we're going to have the grid walk shortly, so the grid in front of the Formula 1 pits, equally, I'm sure, will be crammed. And up in the top left of your image, you can see the top of the Grand Prix pit lane paddock, and you can see an awning over the roof, and you can get up onto a big balcony there, looking down over the track, looking back towards Eau Rouge, and then in the other direction over the Formula 1 grids, and there's a bar and a cafe up there, and actually just a place to have a different vantage point and get out of the sun. The coolest place in the circuit, the 2 tunnels under the circuit, one at Eau Rouge, which goes from the left of your screen to the GT3 paddock, which is behind those blue grandstands. There, in fact, is the awning on top. The top floor is basically bedecked, and the vantage point at the far end is just sensational. 10 minutes until the grid walk will start. I'm sure some people are queuing up because there's something very, very special. It doesn't matter where you are. It doesn't even really matter what sort of cars are on the grid. To be out there, it's such a treat. And you realise when you work in the sport, if you're commentating, you're going to be in a commentary booth. If you're photographer, you'll be out on the circuit. So actually, very few times, unless you're doing the grid walk yourself, are you out on a grid, John. It's something that's a bit of a mystery, but I know people absolutely love it. It's also a chance to see the drivers up close and how they're handling the pressure ahead of them. Some are like robots, and others are full of effusive. In fact, time goes fast. Just 5 minutes until the grid walk. That's give people plenty of time. But it is always a special place. But what makes it particularly special for me is this view we're looking at from the first corner, La Source, down the start straight. Can't see the chicane that leads onto the straight. It's just below that Circuit de Spa-Francorchamps sign. very tight corners to the end of the circuit, but that array of the Ardennes forest behind us. And when you can see the cut with the radio tower at the top, that is the top of the Kemmel Straight. That is Les Combes. And you can almost make out where it gets down to Bruxelles, behind the roof of that red top grandstand. That's Bruxelles on the extreme right of your screen, and then it snakes all the way around. Pouhon takes it back down the other way.
I remember coming down to that corner. I'd started in the pit lane for a track drive, 4 or 5 years ago, maybe more than that now. And therefore we'd followed the pace car around. They let us go at the top of Les Combes, basically, and dropping down the hill through Pouhon. And you come across this bit, and what you can't see from our shots is that there are striations across the grid so that the water drains across it. And it actually is quite noisy on your tyres. So you feel like you're going probably 50 miles an hour. It sounds like you're going probably 50 miles an hour quicker than you actually are. And you come down to La Source, that famous corner that you've seen so many times on the television, that scene of so much carnage and breakage. And you get there, and then I realise I've got no idea where I'm meant to brake. I've got no idea what gear it's meant to be in. And I've got a lot of people in very, very much more expensive cars than my little 968 Sport coming up behind me. So I go all the way down into second and think, right, and as soon as I dropped the clutch out in second, I thought, that's weird, that's ridiculous, absolutely ridiculous. I could have taken that in third. And it's you also don't see it's slightly cambered. When you get into the wall, it helps you round. Now we've got the cars coming to the grid. Look at these cars. This is Endurance Racing Legends 1. Bruce has been telling you about it already. But these are the cars, for very many of you, the sort of era that we're talking about here was the American Le Mans Series. Indeed, there is the Panos coming towards us that bucked the trend. Dr. Don Panos said, I want to put the engine up front, went and spoke to the NASCAR engine builders just north of him in North Carolina. He was in Atlanta, up at Road Atlanta at Brazelton in Georgia. Put the engine in the front. Why would you do that? And he said, because I can. And because he could, he started the American Le Mans Series. Also coming down, the bright yellow number 39 is the old Chamberlain Synergy car. The Bob Burridge, among others, that drove that car for the archetypal British privateer, Hugh Chamberlain. I mean, goodness me. And all of these cars, we could probably sit and do half a day storytelling on all of these cars.
Well, look, I mean, the thing about it is that you don't see many DBAs racing. What am I talking about? Number 24, middle of our screen, DBA, Den Blad Avis, Danish newspaper. It was the Reynard sports car promise. This is the ultra. Here's hen's teeth. This is the Lindsay LMP 675 car that surfaced last year. It never got to race in period. The Lindsay family, chock full of motor racing history and love for the sport. They developed the car. I saw it at their house, in the motor house, a handful of years ago. And I completely forgot that car. I remember reading the news stories when I was at Autosport, but it never got to race. Now it's getting its iteration. It turned up at Le Mans last year, didn't really fire up, but it's starting to go a bit better. Some of these cars will take years to get up to the full racing speed. But what you have in this grid of cars, John, you have a lot of cars that sort of came and went, marks that came and went. This is a crossing point in sports car racing. But we've also got the mix in this, the GT1 cars, like the Maserati MC12s. Trio of those, sort of, were they, you know, it was a car that had, let's say, an interesting homologation history.
Indeed.
Which we could sort of brush over or talk over.
It was too wide, too long, and had too big a wing, but other than that, it was perfect.
Yeah, perfect. Tick, tick, cross, cross, cross. But yes, we've got, you know, one of the loudest cars in the field is certainly that Panos LMP1 Roadster we saw right at the start as the cars were going up on their outlap. Olivier Galland with the wheel. He's very, very quick, young French racer. Coroyes, though, he also wins a loud noise prize, not just for the livery of his Marcus Mantara,
this
which
is the Marcus.
The Dayglow colour scheme, but also for its mighty lump in the back.
The MCs, the Maserati MC12s, a trio of them, and they were stymied in the day because they fell outside of regulations. Maserati built them as a road stroke race car, and beautiful piece of engineering, no doubt about it. They took the regulations, and it wasn't as if they drove a haul through them, they're actually detoured around them.
This year, a new chapter begins. Peter Otto redefines the classic. A new name, a new season for a new story. The new season starts now.